Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the March 2022 EE Community Meetup. Today we're going to have Doug Black with Triple Nerd Score, one of our sponsors as well, and he's going to be talking about bones and using ExpressionEngine as a headless CMS. So excited to hear about that, excited to hear about how he does that and how we can use that and how you guys can build bigger and better things with that as well. So first of all the housekeeping items as normal. So the code of conduct, obviously all of our eecomp.com or econf events, we like to keep everything clean and respectful of others, all that kind of stuff, have patience with people, and of course, just treat others as you want to be treated. So we do have the code of conduct. If you're interested in that, by coming to our events, you subscribe that you'll follow that. And there's also on that page, we can report violations if anybody you feel is breaking those code of conducts, and those will notify eConf members, and we can take care of that. But we want to make sure that is super important and holds the integrity of our events. We're in the Slack. So if you're in EECMS Slack, go over to eConf channel. You can ping everybody there, talk about what's happening, talk about events. Agenda for today. So obviously Doug's going to jump here in a minute into the headless ExpressionEngine. And then once he wraps up, and again, schedules aren't 100%, so but around noon or 11 or whenever that is, I don't know why that says 12:15. We're not going that late. Doug, don't talk for 2 hours, please.
No.
But here in about an hour, Tom's going to hop back on, and I think he has a quick update from the ExpressionEngine team. Also think about for both of these, during Doug's presentation, we'll have Q&A after that. And then also when Tom gets on, if you have any Q&A for Tom or the ExpressionEngine team, be sure to post those as well, and we'll be happy to address those. So everything should be wrapped up around noon. As you just saw, we like to hang out. We like to share audio and video. We like this to be as much like a regular meetup as possible, as if we were in person. So procedures for asking questions. Ideally, you click that little blue share audio and video button, and then myself or Doug or a moderator will let you in to share your audio and video and ask your question in person and have a live discussion. That's always best. And then if you have to, you can use the Q&A feature. Make sure you are clicking on the session. So at the top of the page, at the top of the little side panel there, you have event chat and you have session chat. Make sure that you're in the session chat and you click on Q&A and post your questions, and that allows me to easily manage that and make sure we get all the questions answered. And there's lots of people to vote on questions as well, so I know what are the most important ones if we're running out of time. Always a big thanks to the EEConf committee. We're just a lot of these people work tirelessly throughout the year, and to make these events, to make the spring conference, to make the fall conference, all those things happen. We're really excited to now welcome Julie Field. She's joining our team and going to help us out with some stuff as well. So I'm excited to see the team growing. And if you're interested in participating in the conference committee, let me know and we can chat about that. A lot of these guys have been doing it for many years now. Probably, I think most of us 4 or 5 years at least since the community took over the conference. And it's exciting, but we can always use some help. So always want to point out call out our sponsors. So our gold sponsors for e-conference this year for 2022 is Cartthrob and Hop Studios. Our silver sponsors, Creative, Greenline Creative, and Triple Nerd Scored. Our bronze sponsors, W3 Care and IC360. Excited to see a lot of representatives from our sponsors at our events today. And Friends of EE Creative Arc up in Minneapolis. If you're interested in sponsorship for EE Conference is a year-long sponsorship. So any package that you choose, you get exposure at all of our meetups, our conferences, as well as email, social media blasts throughout the year. So it's not just a per event thing. It is a for the entire calendar year, you'll get called out as a sponsor of our events. If you're not interested in being a sponsor but still want to donate, you can always go to econference.com/donate and help support the conference and the community. It takes money, especially this year, because we're going to be back in Philadelphia, hopefully, or in Philadelphia for the first time, but back live in person. We were talking about that beforehand. I think everyone's excited about that. So that does in-person events take a good bit of money to run. But we're excited about that. And so, yes, Philadelphia 2022. Early bird tickets are available. If you want to go and click on those, I think we're all out of the super early bird tickets, but we still have a few discounted early bird tickets available as well. There is a limited number of tickets for the conference this year, so just make sure you get on there and snag those as soon as possible. Let me know if you have any questions. Not going to get into all the politics and everything, but it looks like things are clearing up to make that pretty sure it's going to happen this year. So we're excited about that. We're excited about seeing everybody face to face. Be sure to go to the website, grab your tickets soon. If you do grab a fall conference ticket or a fall summit ticket, your admission to the spring conference is also included. However, conference spring conference is also available as well. So look for our Twitter feed. I think there's a link on the website, or there will be soon for that as well. That's going to be May 25th. I'm going to be emailing out, tweeting out, all those kind of things for a call for speakers here today or tomorrow, and organizing that. That'll be a one-day event as well. And your admission to the fall summit also includes a ticket for the spring conference as well. And right now I'm going to have, I just posted this morning, early bird tickets for that as well. So they're like 50% off, but we've only got 10 or so for those. So, all right. I know I try to really trim that down from my normal spiel that I give at the beginning, because I know people get tired of hearing from me. They wouldn't hear all about this big pumpkin head. All that, my son saw that on my screen today, and what's that, Dad? Well, we're about to find out what it's all about. So I think everybody knows Doug. Again, triple nerd score. He's been around the community for a long time, does a lot of great work, helps our team sometimes, help many of your teams sometimes. I know, constantly pumping up, written several EEU articles, wrote a whole intro to ExpressionEngine course on EE University as well. Fantastic friend, have really enjoyed knowing him, and look forward to working together much more in the future. But today he's going to talk to us about ExpressionEngine as a headless CMS. And Doug, I am going to head on out and hand it over to you.
Okie dokie. Thank you so much, Andy. And thank you, everyone. I'm just so excited to be here with y'all. Again, I'm going to share my screen. Let me just make sure that I can still see you. All right. Awesome. All right, everyone seeing my screen? Drop a yes in the chat for me, just so I know I'm not crazy. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, cool. So yes, my name is Doug Black. I'm the founder of Triple Nerd Score. Again, super excited to be here with y'all. Super excited just to be a part of the community. So grateful for the opportunity to present about Headless ExpressionEngine and some of the awesome things that you can use EE for. I dropped, before I go too much into intro, I dropped a quick poll in the polls section there, just to kind of gauge everyone's familiarity with Headless CMS and that kind of functionality. So feel free to drop an answer in there. I'll talk about results in just a couple minutes here. But EE is a fantastic product, a fantastic CMS. We don't often think of EE as more of an app engine or something that can hit all of the advanced, JavaScript frameworks that are coming out and some of the more advanced web functionalities that are available nowadays. We've seen a number of presentations, in the EE community about these kind of things. But today I'm excited to talk about Headless ExpressionEngine, using EE to power your content management system afar, basically. So if you've answered on the poll there, we've got about 30% say they know nothing at all about Headless CMS. 46% know a bit. And then somebody said they're an expert. That is exciting. So I'm excited for some good questions here. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. Andy, I'll probably rely on, or in the Q&A section there. I'll keep an eye on that as best I'm able to, as well as on the chat here. But what today is going to look like, we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to start with what is a headless CMS and what makes it different. Hopefully that will bring up, for those who know nothing about Headless CMS, give you a good idea of what we're talking about and what this really is. Why? What are some of the benefits of going headless? And then we're going to talk about a decoupled CMS, not truly a headless CMS, because we don't always need that. And then we're going to build something. So, and by build, I mean, we're going to go through something that's already pre-built because I'm scared to death of coding live. So, so let's talk. Let's talk about what is a headless CMS. In a nutshell, and this is the grand definition, you know, high tech language kind of thing. A headless CMS is any type of backend content management system where the content repository or the body is separated or decoupled from the presentation layer, the front end, the head. This language really comes from like the Linux world, where you would have a Linux box that just has, you know, it's a computer without a screen. And that's really what a headless CMS is. It's giving the body, it's having all of the content management system there without actually having that display layer readily available to you. A couple of things that, you know, bridges the gap between traditional and headless CMSs. First, it's this idea of a traditional CMS is monolithic. A headless CMS moves into the microservices world. Monolithic being, I have one thing and it's just one thing. And that's typically how we use ExpressionEngine when we're creating a website. We have ExpressionEngine that has all of our content management system on the back end. We use the template layer in order to display our content. Looking at microservice, and I stole this chart, and forgive me, I'll find the source and drop that in the chat once I'm able. But using EE as a headless CMS means that it can actually operate outside of that view layer that exists in like your template routes and can send the data to other places. There are a number of uses for this kind of thing. So you see here in this chart, the CMS column here is primarily how we use a content management system. We've got our backend there on the bottom with all of our data, and it's directly linked to what the user is seeing in front of them. And that would be like our templates, that kind of thing. A headless CMS takes all of that content that's there and then allows it to be accessed by a number of different sources. You see an example here where it's sending it to the website. It's also sending it maybe to a mobile app or to, you know, mobile, what do they call them? Smartwatch. Sending the data into multiple places, but always using that one source of truth. Another great example of this kind of thing is being able to use this in more modern JavaScript frameworks, where you don't necessarily want to dump the data all onto a page, or if you've ever had trouble creating, I know I've had a lot of trouble creating a JSON template that has all of your data there so it can be read by that. Headless CMS kind of decouples that, and we'll walk through a good example of that in a second. Traditional CMS is more one-to-one. So like we saw in that diagram, you've got your back end, you've got your front end, they're just connected. Headless allows you to have that one source of truth that leads to a number of different places. And it allows that one source of truth to power multiple different ideas, multiple different applications, multiple different even websites. So you could pull in that same data from another site without maybe like using an EE multi-site setup. And then the other big difference here, your traditional content management system has all of your data, all of your view layer in one environment. Headless allows you to take your data layer and completely keep that separate from your view layer. So if you wanted to have just a primary dedicated backend that was just used to power your API layer, basically, then you could have your entire site as you know, a standalone view app or a static site that you use that API data in order to generate. And I'll show a really good example of this in a little bit once we get toward the end. So why? A couple of reasons to go headless. The three biggest, One is platform independence. It's really great. EE has a very, very robust and powerful template layer, but sometimes you don't necessarily have the option of using EE's template layer, or maybe you just want to use something different. One of the examples that we'll walk through in a little bit is pulling out the data from EE and building that directly into a static site generator. So I can just create a blog platform just with that static site. Headless CMS allows you to manage your data in a very meaningful way, while also making sure that your platforms are independent from one another. So you can have a completely dedicated front end, which is really great if you've got two separate teams. You want to kind of separate that out. The other thing is faster scaling. One of the hardest challenges that, well, as a personal story, as we've tried to build this a couple times, it just have failed miserably, is we have a number of religious organizations that utilize us for some of our smaller site builds, and I'd love to say, okay, we can definitely change around this design, and we can keep the data the same. The challenge with that is the second we move some of those templates into EE, all of a sudden they get overwritten from the database layer, or it's adding in partials from another template that we wanted to use. The data is all the same. We want that same kind of data structure to be able to come in, but we don't want to be able to use all of the same templates. This idea of faster scaling says, I know the information that I have come in because it's coming from my headless CMS. I can connect it to this design. And if they want to redesign it, I can connect it to this design. If I wanted to, I could pull it into 100 different designs because I know the information is always going to be the same in every single place that we go to. And then finally, to enrich your other platforms, we had a website that we were working on that was looking to connect their data directly into a mobile app. Bones, or actually Headless CMS in general, makes that really possible, where you can pull that information in to wherever you need it to just by making an API call. All right, I'm going to take a look at Q&A. Okay, nothing coming up so far. All right, feel free to drop any questions that you have in the Q&A. I know I'm kind of rushing through some of the what and the why there. Most of us probably don't necessarily need to go fully headless at any point. Hopefully you do. You're connecting your website to other mobile applications, or pulling in data from, or pushing that data through to a feed. But if you don't need to go headless, there is another option. And this is what's called a decoupled CMS. It's kind of the mid layer between the monolithic CMS that ExpressionEngine is, with the view layer there, as well as offering this headless idea where you can throw data out to this feed and gather that in wherever you might need. A great example of that we had built was this gigantic product feed. We have this Cartthrob shop that needed to be able to search and gather products and get all of that information, but do like a live AJAX search. And so being able to kind of pull that data through into the micro view app that we had done became really challenging, because creating JSON feeds means that you have to make sure, okay, I've got a backspace 1 here, so I can get rid of that trailing comma. I've got to make sure I'm doing a check for all of this, all of the information coming through to make sure it's there, and then add an empty an array and all that. But that's the kind of idea behind decoupling, is that you've got your monolith here, but then over here, you've got your information that's able to be pulled in via an API to other places. Oh, and that's what that slide was all about. Some great examples, like I mentioned, an AJAX feed for the front end. We're going to do an actual example of this in just a minute here. Outgoing content, if you have a content that's going out through some sort of feed, you need to send blog data somewhere, you need to, something gets crawled on a daily basis, it's really easy to kind of add that in as the API. And then shared content between environments. I was thinking this morning, we had a client who had a number of sites. They have like 70 sites that they want to be able to bring in content from various places, not just ExpressionEngine, WordPress, and there's a craft CMS site, and then some other CMS I'm blanking on. So being able to say okay to that is really challenging. But having that headless aspect of it, where you can decouple that portion and just create a quick API, allows that shared content to function between environments, and then you can pull it in from those various places. So that is the bulk of the information portion. Any questions? Keep an eye on the Q&A. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing just for a second. Let me close down my slides. Now we're actually going to see it in action in a couple different places. I'm going to share my whole screen. And so hopefully it's not too scary with all the bookmarks I've got. There's your inception moment. All right. Oh, all right. So let's talk through two things here. Let's actually take a look at both examples that I mentioned. So one is the Bones blog. So I have my EE Pro test site that I have been experimenting with for a long time. It's just the standard test site here. I've got a channel that's got all of these fields. Let me log in. There we go. Yeah, so I've got a cart throb install in here. I've got the standard EE test templates that come with it. I've got this page with all fields, which is awful to see because it has everything. And here come all my license notices. There we go. 10,000 license notices on my test site. All right. And so the goal here was to be able to bring these blogs into my EE blog test site. And so I'm going to open this up in my code editor here real quick. Oops. And this is running off of a framework called Jigsaw, which is built on Laravel's language Blade. There we go. There's my index page. So all this is doing very similar to EE's templating language, if you're unfamiliar. This is just extending a layout and then adding this body section here. And then this pulls in this post variable here. And so for this post variable, I'm going to go into my config. And I made a very lazy API call of just JSON decoding and file get contents. Not the recommended way to do that. To my EE Pro. And so let's take a look at the EE Pro setup real quick. So let's go back to my blog channel. There we go. And the blog channel is just very, very standard EE right out of the box. Whoops, I think that went to all. Hold on. There we go. There we go. So it's got the content channel there. You can bring in the video, the audio, the image, all of that comes with the standard EE test templates here. And then what I did in my templates, so if I go to my EE Pro repo, and I just created a simple template using Bones. Let me show you the Bones backend real quick as well. Bones, Bones, Bones. And all this does is give me the basic Bones information. Bones is very, very lightweight out of the box, just on purpose. You can set it to active. You can use an API key, and I'm using the very, very secure API key of 123. And in my template here, I'm going to go into my API group and index. this is the entirety of my API template, just Bones entries. If I wanted to, I could also specifically call the action ID for it. But in this example, I'm going to call out to that API. So for my front end here, all I'm going to do is call that API with my API key. And then what's great about Bones is we try to make it as close to EE as possible. So all you're doing, you can either do this in the template itself or in the API call, is we just set up all of these query string parameters. So I want to say, I want my channel blog, I want my search SEO title to say that it's not empty. So I don't want to get anything that doesn't have an SEO title. And now what I'll do is I will build that out on watch. And so what this is going to do is during the config process, as it's creating these post items, is it's going to call out to this API, and then it's going to just create a simple collection for each of the items that are coming through from that API call. There we go. And open. All right. And so here is my awesomely not styled content that's coming through. As we can see, this will match against our blog channels here. Let's find our super old entry. And so when I go through, so now if I wanted to, all of this site that got pulled in through here is set up as static HTML files in my index. And so it's pulling all of that and it's generating the HTML really whenever I want it to be there. So what's great about this is that if I needed just a static site with just my blog, is I could technically log or launch this as is, just make sure that it's build production, all that kind of fun stuff. And all of my blog will be there. And whenever I wanted to refresh that blog, whenever I hit a new entry, I could either manually go in and redeploy it and rebuild it, or even set up like a mini ExpressionEngine extension to say, hey, you do the deployment whenever you see something new coming through on this blog. And we even have our little pages here that we can see all of our entries. It's bringing in my awesome author photo. Let me see. Oh, yeah, because that's not in there. But all of the pages are there. And so that's kind of the headless use of this, or one example of a headless use. Let's actually look at a decoupled use. I'm going to shut down my Bones blog. I'm going to stop watching. And let's take a look at a store example. Close that, close that. And let me get logged in. There we go. Oh, what's great is this is all this Bones example here. One of the pieces of feedback we got when we released Bones is that a lot of folks may not be using like modern JavaScript frameworks, on their front end view, or React, or even Angular, that kind of thing. So somebody had asked, what does this look like in a jQuery example? And so what we did is we quick created the Bones clothing store, which doesn't look like it's going to do much. But what this does is it reaches out to Bones. I'm going to open my console here. If it'll let me. There we go. Let me rerun that real quick. And so this does the exact same thing, where this will call out to the backend via the Bones route that we set up. So we set up a very similar route. Example here. our templates, defaults, API, and we just have bones sitting there. We don't have an API key or anything here. And all this does is it calls out for each of our products. And we're just using a simple channel called product, very, very bare bones, just to give us, as you can see, these awesome black jeans, their pants made of denim, our price and our inventory, as well as our featured image here. And so what's great about this is I'll show you how this works on our front ends. Let's go to our core layout. All right, so we have two primary sections that are in use here. One is, let me scroll down, find it, is our channel categories. So each product has it set up for multiple categories. So similar like what you would see, similar but not the same as an Amazon, store. So we pull in, what's our main category here? What kind of colors are we talking about? Shipping availability as well as size. And all we do here is that we loop through each of these. And for the jQuery portion, we're going to keep an eye on these data attributes here, this data category name and data category ID. And then our other really big section is this line right here. This is where we're going to inject our actual data. And all of that comes from this main.js file here. So we have a couple functions where we're just showing loading, showing no results. And then this get data from bones is where we actually scroll through and we say, okay, what data categories are we seeing? What are stored here? And then let's call out to the API with our bones parameters, again, set up just like you would a channel entries loop. And then we just use jQuery's AJAX to get them. And then when we're done, Bones sends out a very standard response. We see a success response. So if we don't see it's a Boolean value. If we don't see a true there, then we just say, whoa, stop the presses, something broke. We send out a count to let you know how many entries are coming in. And then what we do here, and again, this is probably the worst way to do this. So I know there are definitely going to be better ways on the jQuery side. But we scroll through each of the entries that we get, and we just create our div. And we're just creating our HTML to inject right into the page. We also have our clicks on each of the data categories, data color, size, and shipping in order to update our data and then get the data back from the API. So what this looks like on the front end here, we can see, let me see if I can make this bigger. Yep, there we go. Clear out the console. So on the very first call, when we load this page, this is all EE template code minus what you're seeing here in the actual store. This calls out to the API with our 4 standard setup, our 4 standard query params here. Our product, we don't want anything that's closed. We want to order by entry ID, just for example, and then sort ascending. So I'm going to refresh the page. In our sample code that we do, and I'll drop this Git repository in the chat once I'm done talking here, is it does a whole lot of consoling for you, so you can kind of see as it goes. It'll give you the API URL. It will tell you exactly what parameters, and then it will give you back the standard Bones response that we get here. So including our very, very long, very informative entry here that we use then to fill in our very long DOM element here. So what we're doing here is we're just looping through each of these responses. We're assigning them a variable. And then I'm going to scroll. Again, I know there's a better way to do this. So this is just by way of example. We're going to add the featured image as the source. We're going to add our title there. And then we can get our price here. I think that was all that we did. And so you can add all of the other information that's coming through on that response. Let me just copy that object so you can see the response. There we go. We have our success. We have our message success. If there's an error, that will be informative. There's our count, and then each of these entries. So the entries come through with all of the standard EE entry pieces of information that come through. All of the dates give you multiple formats you can work with, so you don't have to worry about prettifying on the front end if you don't want to. But you could always use a library like Luxor, Moment, even though it's deprecated, or just the standard JavaScript date object. And then it goes through and also parses all of your custom fields here. So here's our custom field description, our price, which I purposely created as a number, just so we can see that having 4 digits. Featured image, it will give you the actual image URL there. Inventory, there are 3 of these items. And then the brand, it will actually pull in the relationship there. I just don't have brands loaded. And so now what we see in our sample here, I'm going to clear that out. If I just want to see shirts, I click on shirts, and our jQuery says, okay, I saw a category click. So we're going to get the category ID, add that to our bones parameters, get the data from bones, and then this time it will add that in right here as the category. And so this just follows standard EE categories. So if I open up my parameters, I see I have a category of 9, which means I'm only looking for my shirts category. And then same thing if I want to say, well, I want orange shirts. Oh, there are no orange shirts. There's my red shirt. Here's my blue. Let's see, I want a jacket. There's my gray jacket. And so with each of those, all it's doing is calling back out. So for example, if I wanted to go back in and let's add a product. Let's make a gray hoodie. Shirt with a hood. We'll make the price $123. Why not? And then let's upload a new image. Downloads. Nope, where did I put it? Where's my hoodie picture? Hoodie, there it is. Upload file. There we go. So now that got added even though the page was loaded. But if I go, oh wait, you know what I didn't do is add my categories. Let me do that real quick. So fashion hoodies and sweatshirts. It's dark gray or gray. I don't know the difference. And let's just say it comes in all these sizes. We'll save again. So I've already loaded the page, but a new product was added. However, when I do my call out to the API, now I've got my gray hoodie. And that's really one of the benefits of Headless there too, is you're not waiting to update the templates or update the code, or even sometimes waiting for the user to reload their browser. You're just sending the data as it comes, and you're allowing your front end to say, this is the information I need, and it can do it more point in time. So that is, let me get back to the window here. All right, so I'm going to drop in the chat here. Here's the example for that decoupled store. Again, Headless CMS, as web, I was thinking the other day, as I was thinking through our product, Hey, Check It, and just how much like web development has changed throughout the years. Like I started web development when I was a kid back in the fabled 1900s, when I had to, in Internet Explorer, click and view source and try and figure out exactly what was happening here. And, why is everyone using these tables? So they want to make sure that it looks good on all of these devices. And to think about today where, I'm talking about completely taking your front end and separating it from your back end so that your front end could be hosted on a service like Vercel, and get, all of that statically hosted. You can auto deploy it via, a number of different things, or you can throw a bunch of HTML up on GitHub pages that you auto deploy via a GitHub action whenever it calls out to your backend. Headless CMS is one of those things I think that fits in that kind of, it's the now kind of category. And EE is a great way to make it happen. Rather than just having your website hosted one place, you can throw up an entire, static site in just a couple minutes using the backend that we're all familiar with. And yeah, Bones helps make that possible. So that is all for me. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present. Andy, welcome back.
Which, of course, I come back on mute. So glad to be back. All right. So we do have a few questions that came in. One thing I wanted to ask is with Bones, do those jQuery examples ship with Bones? Do you have jQuery examples and stuff that ship with Bones?
Great question. No, so right now Bones ships with a standalone view app that you can use to preview it, as well as the sample blog.
Okay.
But that's a good idea. We'll add that into the samples there, as well as in the documentation, so you can grab that. That repo is public, so I mean, feel free to grab that anytime. And if you have any questions, yeah, go for it.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to step away while you answer this question real fast. But Oliver says, would this usable in such a way so that one installation of EE on one domain could control the data displayed on another EE installation on another domain?
Yeah, absolutely. So you could use this to be able to say, like, I want to pull a blog from site A and view it on site B, like at least in some portion, like as, either kind of like an interstitial ad, like I just want to throw this on there, or, you want to say like our most recent news and send somebody that way. If you weren't using like a native EE multi-site setup, you could definitely use Bones to do that kind of thing. The two caveats that I will say to that kind of thing, they're the gotchas that get me all the time, is CORS, cross-origin RS. I always forget what it stands for, but basically what your browser says, I have site A, I have site B. Site A wants to talk to site B, but I don't know you, site B. And so making sure that you've got proper CORS headers set up so that those sites can communicate via front-end communication is very, very helpful. The other item that you might look to do in those circumstances is we have a pair add-on for Bones specifically, but you can do this anytime, is creating an add-on that specifically gathers your data from your API, from your Headless CMS, and then basically makes it into the template code that you would need. Very similar to how you would with any other kind of module that has like models, that kind of thing.
Awesome. All right. So let's see. Derek asked the question, using jQuery versus Vue async data, wouldn't you see a decrease in SEO since it's after the page load, where async data technically happens before page load? Is there a way to do similar using jQuery?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. Yeah, so you're right. The biggest challenge on that is making sure that when a website crawls, that it's able to kind of gather that data, like using something like Vue, like SSR, to gather the view data and kind of create the page in real time, gets around a lot of that SEO problem with single page applications. When you're doing something like that with jQuery, what you might look to, you're right, it's definitely going to be a problem if you're pulling it in just like this. What you might want to do in a decoupled example is actually load the channel entries for like certain products in there, so it's able to kind of gather that data and then pull that out when you do the jQuery call. The other big thing that will help you in circumstances like this is making sure you have good structured data around each of the products you're pulling in. Something like JSON LD that can make sure that you're specifically indicating what each of those products are, as well as making sure you've got, a killer product landing page for that particular product. So, yeah, great question. SEO, I think, is one of the biggest challenges around asynchronous data, and especially something like this. So, good call.
Yeah, I think that's an age-old question when it comes to loading data like this. So
yeah.
All right. Oliver says, I can see a great use for this for running stock control between an e-commerce site and a warehouse somehow. So the website shows accurate stock levels.
Yeah. Yeah, you could totally
question,
do
but it's a
that.
great statement. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a good use case for it. So
definitely agree.
Let's see, Derek. Okay, that's from before. Making sure you have set up cores. Okay. All right. I'm just going back and forth between Q&A and chat. All right. Matt Johnson from the EE team asks, can you set per channel secret keys or require user authorization for certain channels or turn off the API access for certain channels?
Great question. Not yet. So that's something that's kind of on our radar. Specifically to Bones outside of like the Headless CMS portion. Specifically to Bones, we're looking at setting up per channel kind of settings for it, as well as like presets. So like if you said, I just want preset this and just throw it in a template or throw it in your AJAX call, that you'd be able to get exactly what you'd be looking for in those circumstances, as well as setting up member level information. So being able to say, you know, this is only going to be viewable for certain members, that kind of thing. Setting up specific API keys for each of those is on the roadmap as well. And then the other big thing is data transformation. So being able to say, if you didn't want like the standard Bones setup coming in, that you'd be able to kind of create your own custom transformation. I was looking at Contentful, the Headless CMS, the other day. And so they basically have it where you can pull in all of the different fields along with field descriptions, that kind of thing. I mean, can you imagine having, you know, your rich text, your rich text field saying, I want specifically this kind of data to come in and be displayed in this particular field, in this particular instance, would be really great. Or being able to like parse your content through Markdown, like the new Common Mark add-on that came on the store. Being able to kind of parse that afterwards would be a really, really great use for that. So all that's a long answer to the question, but yeah, like all of that's definitely on the horizon.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So I don't see any questions right now. I have a question. Can you start over again and explain this to me again? Because I still struggle with this. So I'm going to be watching this a couple of times, I think. I think it's one of those things where it's just like a lot of other things. It's not a really hard concept. It's just given a cool new name and it's all the rage. And so you think it's harder than it really is. So I keep on thinking that I feel like there's something I'm missing.
Yeah, it really is. Like it's what we've all had. It's basically just saying my back end lives on site A, my front end lives on site B. You two play friendly and show me what I want to see. Right. So yeah, I feel you. And honestly, even preparing for this, like I read through a number of articles and I'm just like, oh yeah, but what? Like, what is this? Okay, so yeah. Yeah. It can definitely be a confusing concept, but like ultimately the idea is being able to build your content into, you know, especially some of the more modern JavaScript frameworks, you know, creating a Vue app and Next.js app, throwing something on Vercel, or just having that data readily available to you when you need it.
Sure. Blair said, I'm messing with, which translates to me as he's planning to present at the next meetup on Next.js and ExpressionEngine. So that'll be interesting. So,
do it.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Let's see if nobody up. I see another dot on the Q&A here. Does Roger ask, does Bones support editing like REST stuff?
Not yet. So right now, Bones itself is only only display data. That's one of the other things we're kind of talking through at this point. We're not exactly sure the best way to make that happen. Without, because pulling data in, means that you're touching the content management system. And so you've got to make sure that you trust the data that's coming in a meaningful way. But the other side of that is, if you've got a feed that, you get like new products that come in every night, you don't want to create another API connection. Bones would be a great way to do that. So I think we're waiting until after the transformer piece comes in, so we can also use transformers to say, I see this data coming in, put this data out the other way so that EE knows how to write it.
Awesome. Steve asked, for any new data, is it possible to add data headless ExpressionEngine channel form, or must it still be used within EE?
Yeah, channel form's still the way to go for now. With that in the EE world, at least when we talk about like headless CMS, that kind of thing. So again, at least for Bones, it's on our radar. It's not there yet, specifically because of that transformation issue and making sure that EE can save it in a way that's meaningful. And the other portion there too is figuring out a way to honor CSRF and making sure that we're not, allowing a gigantic open endpoint for the world to post content to.
All right. Derek asks, are there plans to make Bones RESTful? If so, are you looking for contributors?
I'll answer your second question first. Yes. Yeah, ultimately that would be part of the transformer piece. Originally the idea of Bones was being able to kind of connect this to the front end in a way so we can power our front page, JavaScript applications. And so part of the transformer piece is going to be able to say, like, let's figure out a way to make this like fully RESTful, or, how can we use this to, to bring that content in via the feed. I almost said GraphQL there, but I'm not fully stoked on that just yet for Bones, but it's on the radar. It's just, I don't know how to do it. So all that to say, if you're willing to contribute, hit me up in Slack.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Anybody else here? Winding down. Blair says GraphQL is one of the missing pieces here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what Blair and Derek are saying is they want to help you get GraphQL in there.
Listen,
this
I'm
is
all
how
for it.
You hear how I translate stuff in my head? I just do. All right. All right. Anybody else? All right. One more red dot here, and then I think we're going to hand it over to Tom for an ExpressionEngine team update. Oliver says, I guess this method could be used to serve site redundancy somehow. One CMS and data, multiple sites on other domains.
Just sever.
Sure.
Whoops, I lost the question now.
Sure. Oh, sorry. Went to the
there.
top there.
No, that's okay. Yeah. To sever site redundancy somehow. Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, like, I think through, our client who's got these 70 sites and wanted to pull, all the content into one place, or there was a project a couple of years ago working for a company that had kind of a similar thing. And we ended up bringing in all of these JSON templates just to export the data. And then we had to create a whole separate app to be able to do that. Like the idea would be, to be able to say, just call out to this site, get the data. Just call out to this site, go get the data. Call them over there. Let's get all of this together in one place and display it how you'd want to.
Sure.
So awesome. Well, if you do have any other questions, or if you want to, talk more about Headless, talk about what GraphQL would look like in EE, which I'm very intrigued on that for sure. Or I don't know, if you just need help or want to chat about Pittsburgh snowy weather, happy to jump in this EE Slack and, talk it through. So thanks, Saul. I appreciate the chance to present today.
Fantastic, Doug. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to let Doug hop off there, and I'm going to bring in Tom from ExpressionEngine team here.
Hey,
There's
everybody.
the man himself. So Tom's going to give a quick update, I think, or chat for a couple minutes anyways. But mostly here to answer questions or hear from the community. So again, load up that Q&A if you have any questions for Tom about ExpressionEngine or things that are happening. And once again, I'm going to kind of hop off here while Tom talks.
Awesome. Hey, Doug, thanks for presenting that. That was awesome. For those who don't know, I am Tom Jaeger, the president of Packetide, the company behind ExpressionEngine. I'm just going to give a very brief update today, and then, like Andy said, I'll be around for any questions for a bit, and if we need to pull in other team members or something, we can do that as well. So, quick update: 6.3. It's almost done. We are heading into our internal testing shortly here. When I say internal testing like that, I mean beyond the automated tests. We have a very large test suite that runs whenever we PR into a series of different branches. It's all in our Git workflow, if you will. Quick note on that too, we've actually just revised our test flow. When we originally acquired ExpressionEngine, the tests took over 24 hours to run on a single version of PHP. We rewrote a lot of those, brought it down to about 40 minutes, and we ran it from 5.6 all the way up to now 8.1 PHP versions, that is. So we just revised that again. I think we have it to about 12 minutes now for the full test suite. So from there, we'll probably pause on kind of test changes and iterations, if you will. Kind of think we have that in a good place and can save us a significant amount of time there. All right, so 6.3, almost done here. As mentioned before, 6.3 is field centric. So what does that mean? We're coming out with 4 new fields specifically: a number field, integer field, if you will, a range slider, a buttons field type, and a new notes field type. So those are the 4 new field types. In addition to that, we have kind of another iteration on accessibility as a whole. So when we originally released 6.0, we did an iteration thereafter on accessibility. We are doing another one currently as well. In addition to this, I know I mentioned this to partners on a call in December, might have even been November. 6.3 will ship with conditional fields. So we are pretty cool about that. That is not going to be a pro feature. That is planned for the core. So it's something we've been working on for a while, and we're very excited to get that out there. Another quick update here. Since the new year, really, we have kind of decoupled some of our development. So we've decoupled Pro from ExpressionEngine. So why do I mention this? I mention this because so far it's been Pro updates would ship with a minor release. Yep, I had to think about that for a minute. Not a patch. So basically 6.2 would ship with like Pro 1.1, if you will. That is no longer the case. We've decoupled them. That allows us to basically focus smaller, if you will, on development and be able to move at a quicker pace on different things. So, not conditional fields. Entry cloning, for instance, I think that was with 6.2.5, if I recall correctly, but that type of thing. So hereafter, we do have Pro 1.3. Pro 1.3 will be field groups inside of Fluid. So just like the traditional field groups you're used to from all the way back in the day, EE1X even, you can tie a field group into a Fluid field element. That will be in Pro 1.3. Beyond that, 6.4 is performance centric. We do have a few versions beyond 6.4 planned out. A lot of the versions beyond 6.4 at this point are also subject to change, so I'm not going to talk about those too much. So 6.4 is a performance centric release. I do want to mention, I don't talk about it often, but the partners. The partners program, if you will, has changed a good bit since we've taken over ExpressionEngine as a whole. And we've recently moved to monthly meetings. The monthly meetings have been really good. We chat current web development, current projects, sales, and we also give the partners a bit of a peek about what's around the corner as a whole. So I just want to throw that out there. That is something that we are working on and we iterate on, and we're looking to move forward this year as well. So that's about the end of the update I have. If anybody has questions, happy to answer them or speak to things more.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, you mentioned entering cloning, and I think that was released since we last had our meetup. So hope everybody's been enjoying that. I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback about how that's working. So let's see. Only question I have right now is from Roger. He says, but by conditional form or fields, when you mention that, do you mean conditional visibility in the channel CRUD screens? So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about how conditional fields are going to work and stuff?
Yep, absolutely. Yes, that is accurate. So on a given field, you can set up conditions that will control when it is displayed, for instance. So you can say like, hey, when this other field is, greater than 50, I'm making up an example, right? Or contains the word event, that type of thing, then show, this additional field. So that is exactly what we mean. So they will conditionally be shown or hidden based on logic that is set up on a per field basis.
Right, and then so on the publish on the entry screen, it's going to be conditionally hidden or shown, and then on the template though, you're gonna write logic to say like basically if this is displayed, then show it on your front end kind of stuff. So.
Yep, that's correct. While we're saying this too, I want to give a hat tip to Lydia. I know a lot of people know her. She walked us through a lot of what's present in WordPress specifically with conditional fields, and we talked with her a couple times, as well as a template logic. We had 4 or 5 ideas that we kicked around on the template end, and ultimately we feel like we're always in the boat of trying to give control to developers to handle things in the templates. So that's where we net it out, just to say, hey, go ahead and determine that logic on your own, if you will.
Awesome. Oliver asks, is there a way to hook into entry cloning from a channel form yet, outside or within using EE Pro? So I don't think we have any entry cloning outside of just save as new entry in the control panel right now. So
correct.
But yeah, if you have any feature requests with entry cloning, such as that, let me know, or let us know. Open an issue in GitHub, ping us in Slack or something like that. So
the entry cloning was an interesting one. We kicked around a lot of options on how it should perform, what the user experience should be, that type of thing. So this is one of those items where at some point it's like, hey, this is solid where we're at. Let's see what the feedback is. So like Andy said, if you guys have feedback, or if you all have feedback, we'd love to hear it. So
yeah, we could definitely dev features forever and never release them. We kept on going down. All right. Any other questions for Tom, guys? I'll give it just a minute here. Make Tom sit awkwardly in front of the camera. JCogs asks, is there any news on release of an updated style guide for EE development?
That's a great question. Style guide for EE development. A lot of this. So I'm going to answer this kind of in 2 different ways. So we have let's say a loose style guide. It's more like a static HTML. I think it's pretty out of date. So I think we need to revisit that as a whole. The other way I would answer this, though, is actually through the shared form view. Personally, every now and then I wonder, is the shared form view the way to go? I get mixed reviews. I get people saying they love it and people saying they don't. I think the thing I really get with the shared form view, though, is can it be documented more? So that is something that's come on our radar specifically, I'd say, in the last few weeks. And that is something that we'd like to do. Why do I mention that? I mention that because if you use the shared form view, it's going to fall in line with existing styles. So I don't know if you're looking for something beyond that, but that's how I would answer that. I would try to use the shared form view for now. We have ideas as well through the control panel. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Is looking towards version 7 and version 8, kind of changing the control panel significantly, more so from a build perspective. So. Gavin, I don't know if that answers your question, though, but my inclination is to stick with the share form view. We do have plans to further document the use of that. I know I've seen questions come up with that recently, and I know that Eric Lamb just did a first article on that on EE University as well.
Yep, and Robin just copied a link to that, to the E University article. And actually, part 2 of that article is coming out probably as soon as I eat some pizza for lunch after this meetup. So Eric's got part 2 ready, and we'll release that this afternoon. So
very cool.
All right. Any other questions? Paul compliments your beard. You should be proud of that, he says.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, another dot in the Q&A here. Gavin says, sorry, let me approve this so we can see it. Gavin says, shared form view documentation refers to a style guide, as in marks a setting field as potentially decreasing security and applies the security caution style as shown in the style guide.
I think I follow what you're saying. Let me write that one down. So, Gavin, you're kind of talking about some of the other things you'll see throughout the control panel.
Yes. So, yeah, there's links to the old style guide, I think, in the docs that we still need to work on. So.
Okay.
I need to find somebody who can go through the docs and find that stuff. Who would do that? Yes. Yeah. Please point out stuff in the docs. I know, just to be transparent and candid here, I know something was pointed out the other day that pointed to a docs page that doesn't exist anymore. And as we've taken over ExpressionEngine, we've worked really hard on the core and building a great foundation of a product. But there's still holes that we're missing or things that we miss out there. And, please call us out on that, or, just ping me and say, hey, I noticed this is missing in the docs, or this could be updated or anything like that. Feel free to, take care of it yourself as a community member and submit that, or just let us know so it's on our radar. Liam asked in the chat here, is there a roadmap for improving changing the native upload process to do something a little more intuitive? So I think that's like file field uploading and stuff, or the file manager. Yes. Are there any updates, Tom?
There are. That is one of the items that's coming up very soon. We'll talk more about that probably in the near future.
Yep. Blair said, I think there's a test that checks for dead links. Yes, I've tried to extract all the links and ran all that before. I think it's stuff that links to stuff that's not really in date, or the page still technically exists in the background or stuff like that. So, all right, going to wait again just a minute here while people type their questions out. All right. I think we'll call it that then. Call it a wrap. Tom, any closing comments or anything you want to say for people to look out for? Anything coming down the pipe? Anything?
I don't think so specifically at this time. We're excited for 6.3 and excited to get that out the door. And then 6.4 and Pro 1.3. Beyond that, we are excited for changes that are coming up as a whole, and we'll be sharing a lot of those pretty shortly here. So.
All right. I'm gonna get you on this one here. Justin asks, does that last answer about file uploading include changes to the whole assets framework?
If you're talking about assets add-on specifically, no. If you're talking about file manager as a whole, yes, it does. So it's safe to say that scope is kicked off, but
okay, he meant files as a whole. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's
we're looking
at
some updates there for sure. So.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, and just to give my closing spiel as always here, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. I hope you got a lot of that. Thank you, Doug, so much for all the work you do in the community and for preparing that presentation and answering everybody's questions. And Tom, of course, for always jumping on here and being transparent about what's happening in ExpressionEngine and the product that we love so much. So just a quick shout out here again to Doug. Bones is available in the Addon store at expressionengine.com/addon/bones. Be sure to check that out. Give him some love, give him some money, support him so that he continues to support us. Our sponsors, again, just a quick call out to all of our great sponsors, gold sponsors this year, Cartthrob and Hop Studios. Silver sponsors, Greenline Creative, Triple Nerd Score. Bronze sponsors, W3 Care, IC360. Friends of EE, Creative Arc. And again, there's many ways to support the conference. You can either become a sponsor or just donate if you wish. And we appreciate all that. The next meetup is ... We're not going to have a next meetup in a couple months because it's the spring conference. So join us again. We try to do the meetups every other month if you haven't caught on yet. So we got April, and then May will actually be our spring conference. Again, we have some early bird tickets available for that right now. If you're interested in presenting, head on over to cfp.econf.com and you can submit your presentation. If you know of people that you would really like to hear at our conference, it's just a one-day conference. And somebody like this person's great in the tech scene or great in ExpressionEngine or whatever technology you want to hear about, let us know. Ping them directly and let them know how much you enjoy hearing from them and enjoy their content and want them to speak, or ping us and we can ping them directly, all that kind of stuff. We really want to get a great lineup and continue the tradition of EE conference and great information coming out at those conferences. So again, that's May 25th. The deadline for CFP will be the end of this month. So I think March 30th, that Wednesday, is our deadline to have submitted a presentation. If you have anything from a full 30, 45-minute presentation, even if you just want to do a 10-minute quick talk or something, present an idea, get your feet wet as far as presenting at a conference, we welcome all different types of talks, all different types of experience, and all different types of topics, from ExpressionEngine to Headless to Bones to just a JavaScript framework, to how you sell ExpressionEngine or how you run a team, project management. Again, we are a community, and if you're going through something, then probably many people in the community go through that same thing. So we have anybody from graphic designers, front end, back end, business owners, project managers, creative directors, all kinds of people in our community, multitude of jobs, multitude of positions and hats that everybody wears. So we want to hear all about that. And any way that you can help the community, everybody in the community has something to share. And that's why in fall, again, we're going to have, the conference is going to be a summit. That's why we keep on referring to the fall conference as a summit, the fall summit, because we're all going to share in this presentation. So we're going to have some key speakers that are going to help facilitate conversations or share a talk. But then it's going to be us sitting around and talking just like we did in the fall conference. We had a couple sessions like that where everybody shared their ideas or thoughts or brought up a topic and just helped each other out. And that's really how the fall is going to run this year. And that's also why there's a limited number of tickets, because we want to keep it intimate. We want to have the community together, sharing ideas, not just going and listening to somebody for 45 minutes, but actually participating and sharing ideas and helping each other out as we grow together as a community. So again, EE Conference 2022 in Philadelphia at Convene in Commerce Square there. Early bird tickets are still available. Get them while they're available. And I believe that is all I have for today. So if you have any questions about EE Conference, sponsorship, donating, tickets, anything you guys need, just let us know. Ping us in the EE Conf channel, ping us on the website, ping me directly in Slack. Pretty much all of the conference organizers are on the EE CMS Slack as well. And we thank you for you guys participating in this, being here today, supporting us. We hope that you find these valuable. We hope that we are inspiring you guys, that you guys are learning from these, and that we're growing together as a community. So with that said, I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll see you guys at the spring conference in May. Bye, guys.